welcome to York, where I'm sitting in an Airbnb just inside a corner of the city walls in this beautiful city. We've got a couple of days here, and as I sit here I'm looking out of the window. There are people striding along the walls, peering in this bedroom, which is beautifully Vincent van Gogh's themed, as you can probably tell. But we're not going to stay here for long. We're going to go and do a couple of routes whilst we're here. We'll do a running tour around that very city wall and see some of the best of the architecture and beautiful sides of this city. And today we're going to wrap up nice and warm because it's November, and we're going to head about 15 miles north on the bus to Castle Howard, which is one of the finest country houses in England. This is the least private Airbnb room I've ever been in. There's a man who's literally just waved to me from the city wall, and I'm sitting here on this Vincent van Gogh themed bed. But hey ho, you know, like nothing is private anymore. I'm here on YouTube. So we're off to Castle Howard today, which is 15 miles north of York. It's one of the finest stately homes in England, and there are 1,000 acres of woodland there and countryside, and there are lakes and follies and fountains and formal gardens, lawns, that sort of thing. But there's also a further 6,000 acres of farmland and wildlife habitats. So we're going to do a 3-mile loop around the outside and hopefully see some really beautiful sights, some of the Howardian hills, which I'm guessing were named after these famous landowners, pass through some of the villages that are still part of the estate, and just generally have a lovely time. So let's get our walking boots on. Expensive bus fare ever. £10. Hello and welcome to Castle Howard, where we are having about 4 miles of lovely walking today in this beautiful weather. It's November, so we've been really lucky, and at the moment we're just marching up the driveway away from the, well, it's not a castle, it's a palace really, towards the obelisk, and we're going to skirt round the landscape here. Castle Howard is not actually open at this time of year. It's 8.8 thousand acre estate. Just includes the palace, but also loads of farmland and countryside. And there are loads of these wonderful monuments and follies. It's a Grade 1 listed landscape dotted around the place, and we're going to see just a few of these, starting with this. So the 3rd Earl, I should get that right, here's my notes, Charles Howard. He was the 3rd Earl of Carlisle, and he got his dramatist friend John Vanbrugh in 1799 on board to help design this beautiful palatial mansion. And John Vanbrugh, being a dramatist, didn't actually know how to design an incredible palace, so what he did instead was get his friend Nicholas Hawksmoor on board, who'd done a bit of work with Sir Christopher Wren on the likes of St Paul's Cathedral and that sort of thing. So what we're going to see is John Vanbrugh's first landscape. You'll know John Vanbrugh because, well, you might do. I only learnt this the other week, but he was the guy behind Blenheim Palace. If you can see behind us over there, that's the sort of entrance to the gatehouse and all that business. This is the sandstone obelisk in front of us. This is 25 metres high. And there is inscribed on it just there in Latin firstly a note to the Duke of Marlborough, who Vanbrugh would later design Blenheim Palace for. He did loads of cool stuff in the war and everyone loved him for it. Sorry, I can't be more technical. There is also an inscription, I think probably around the other side, if we have a look, to the Earl himself, which is nice, seeing as he is the one who gave him the opportunity to make this beautiful mansion. Anyway, let's head on up the road here, and I'll catch you again in a minute for more nonsense. This road bit's a little boring. We're in the Howardian hills now, so we're going to do a bit of climbing over there and really enjoy some of the amazing views. And this landscape is all designed, so there were, I mean, originally on this site there was a medieval village and castle named something beginning with an H. I wrote it down somewhere. Henderskelf. So that village was lost, possibly levelled, I don't know. With the building of a lot of these landscapes, they actually did knock down the original villages just to get them out of the way so they could put some nice follies and vistas in. It, you know, wouldn't interrupt those undulating hills. Capability Brown later famously did a bit of this sort of re-architecturing the landscape for his famous vistas. And so anyway, this village and medieval castle was here, but it was a ruin, and that's when the Earl of Carlisle, sort of, his family inherited it. It was actually the third Earl who decided to build this lovely palace here. Over to our right, which is east, yeah, is a great lake. So we're just walking downhill now, and that should be hidden away and hopefully reveal itself to us very, very shortly. We're going to head east just shortly after this road and go through one of the little villages before we join the footpath. We can just see to the east now the huge Great Lake. It's one of several lakes here, or 2, 3 lakes here, starting to evolve out of the landscape as we burrow through this lime walk. The bus ride here was completely amazing. I think that thing climb up the hills was pretty impressive. Saw a rainbow at one point. Hopefully the sun will be out again shortly. The Howardian Hills, Howardian? I don't know how to say that, I just read it places. But it's an area of outstanding natural beauty, as you can probably guess, just looking around. And apparently in the Great Lake there's loads of wildlife, lots of flora and fauna, and they even have freshwater mussels there, which you're able to see near the boathouse, just nestling on the bed of it. And you can just see now our very first view of the house, castle. It attracts 250,000 visitors per year. That's in the English Baroque design. I should have mentioned that earlier. Obviously, Vanbrugh became known for it. There are over 200 listed monuments and buildings within this landscape. Just ahead we have our first glimpse of some mute swans and some of the wildfowl here on this beautiful big lake. Oh, pheasants. Those ones are alive. I saw a whole load of them hanging up earlier. I hate this time of year for people shooting all the pheasants. Sad. I don't know if you can make this out on the GoPro, but just over there, making its way across that vista, is a really huge flock of geese, I think. I can certainly hear some kind of goosey sounds. Don't know if you can hear them, they're just going above where the sun is now. It's like just a gigantic, strange line of them. It's beautiful and odd. Isn't nature weird? The shapes, the sounds, the sights. We're going to head east now through the village of Conisthorpe. You ever walking in the country and you see a tractor and you're just going, oh, don't come my way, don't come my way. And then they do, and they wave at you because they're really nice. That's why I came to Yorkshire, because I've never known someone from Yorkshire to be mean. I haven't met that many people from Yorkshire, but I think they're all nice. That guy waved at me. Here we are at the Lakeside Holiday Park. So I think this is camping, luxury holiday homes. But yeah, look, they look sort of campy, kind of chilly. Lovely views. There's Castle Howard popping into view, but obviously to keep an estate like this going today, and it is still a resident for the family, they need to get smart on how they use their land. About 6,000 acres are dedicated to farming and wildlife habitats, but things like this holiday park, I'm sure, adds a good deal of revenue to keeping them incumbent. Just past the village green, which is pretty, and I can smell wood smoke from someone's fire. I love this time of year in villages. Reconditioned £289 has just gone completely flat, so more for me. But cheap reconditioned stuff, eh? Cheap. But what we're about to do now is come up to Ray Wood, where there are lots of rare botanical finds from around the world. So plant hunters would have brought all sorts of interesting items here, such as magnolia, pyrrhus, wild roses, hydrangea, stuff that they found on mountain slopes in the Himalayas and the like. So as we go through there, I think we'll probably start climbing the hills and come out the other side for a pretty spectacular view of Castle Howard, which is just there through the trees. What do you know? The iPhone's back. Temporarily back in action. Looks like the battery's about to go flat as we come upon the Temple of Four Winds, which was designed by John Vanbrugh, but not completed until 1738, I think. Anyway, let's go and have a look, because there should be some amazing views across the hills. Put your stick back. If I can get it up to you. Oh dear, stand back, I'll throw it. Okay, ready? All the excitement. Forgive me if I've got my facts wrong here, but I think this might be the family mausoleum, which is quite a resting place. I wouldn't mind. It's starting to rain a bit though. Sheepies. So let's head over this bridge here, because I think we're now going to cross the New River. Ah, I see the pyramid over there in the distance. I'm going to cross over this beautiful bridge across the New River, which, again, a lot of part of sculpturing these landscapes, I think, was rediverting rivers and streams, widening this river in particular, so that they could create the South Lake, which is another smaller lake. We're going to head now towards the pyramid, and hopefully this battery will last. Oh, hay bales. It probably doesn't look like a hill on the camera, but we're about to climb St Anne's Hill, and this pyramid, which is another listed building. I'm going to tell you before my battery dies that it cost about £135,000 to recently restore, and it contains a bust of the 3rd Earl's great-great-grandfather who founded the Carlisle branch of the Howard family, I think. I'm not very good with families. We're starting to loop back towards Castle Howard now, which you could just see over there. And there's the pyramid. That was added by Nicholas Hawksmoor in 1728. Little bird sitting on top of it. And it's hollow, 9 metres high, and contains that bust of the 3rd Earl's great-great-grandfather. Let's see if I can remember his name. Sir William... Lord William Howard. Can't keep track of the difference. Enjoy this landscape. So you've got the pyramid there, Castle Howard just over here with its English Baroque style, but also some Palladian additions later on, which make it to some eyes quite incongruous. Bridge over there, mausoleum, and then we're heading back along this to loop back around to the castle, and hopefully we'll be able to see the gatehouse that was built by Vanbrugh in 1718, and then later on, I think in the 1750s, they added these 2 wings to it and made it an inn. Later on, that inn became a post office. You could hire horses and carriages from there. But then later on in the 1800s, Rosalind Howard was managing the estate, and she had a thing against alcohol, so she got rid of it. But you'll see this amazing gate with its winged sides that were later added. But she didn't get rid of the actual building itself, you see. I'm explaining this really badly. She had a thing against alcohol, so she made it a retreat for women and children. Go Rosalind. Must be something about the name. There's Castle Howard just emerging over there from the brow of the hill. Looking right at the castle now. I'm not sure if you can make it out on the GoPro, but you should just be able to see those flat lawns, which I think were a more recent change to Vanbragh's design, and the Atlas fountain in the middle. It's a very famous centrepiece. Atlas holding up the world, and some massive statues and sculptures. Ooh, what a lovely walk. Heating bill must be huge though. That's not medieval. Oh, it might be, I don't know. But I think that was more of a revival idea of Vanbragh's, I'm guessing. I feel so smug that we got to film this. Gatehouse. Look at them all squeezing through the little gap. That's where the bus is going to come in later. So we're about to head down towards the obelisk, which you can see dead ahead where we started our walk, back down this lovely lime walk. So that concludes our 4-mile route. I've got time for a cup of tea before my bus comes through there very slowly. If you look at the pyramid structure, right there, that pyramid structure was designed by Vanbrugh in 1718. And then the wings either side were added in 1758 by a guy called Thomas Robinson. And it then became a post office, a hotel, well, an inn where you could stay, you could drink, you could hire horses and carriages. And then in the 1880s, Rosalind Howard, who was very anti-alcohol, turned that temperance inn, as it was called, into a retreat for women and children. So there. Back to the obelisk with its interesting dedication to the Duke of Marlborough. Earl of Marlborough. Again, Dukes, Earls, Sirs. After this, the Duke of Marlborough would ask Vanbrugh to design his Blenheim Palace, which was a very contentious affair and actually sort of destroyed Vanbragh's career because he fell out so much with the Duchess. But that's another story for another day. I'm going to go and get a cup of tea before my bus comes. So glad we had nice weather and it's warm. See you soon.